My name's Kathy C., and I'm the subcommittee chair for the NFOEC committee, the Optical Networks and Services subcommittee. And so we look at what's coming in terms of network architectures and economics. A lot of papers this year on things like multi-layer networks and the challenges of dealing with multi-layer networks. We're looking a little bit more at near-term issues than OFC committees, which have similar topics, but they're looking out a few years. So that's some of the differences. And so we had some really exciting papers come in this year, very neat sessions that have come out. We have three different sessions that I was going to mention today. One is a session on dynamic networks. And that one was looking at, in the past, all of the networks have pretty much been static, and just now a lot of technologies are coming to bear that allow networks to suddenly move around, and it's causing a lot of interesting challenges and exciting opportunities for service providers and others to use these flexible networks. And so we have two invited talks in that session. One is a speaker from China Telecom, who's going to talk about how they're using technologies like OTN switching in their network to do flexible networking and what it's helping. And there's another one from a speaker from Telefonica network that's going to give us a similar discussion of what's going on in the Telefonica network. We also had 3 contributed talks in that area that were really interesting, looking at some of the options for flexible networks, including things like OTN switching. One was from AT&T, one was from Ericsson, and the other one was from Alcatel-Lucent. And so all of those make for a nice session. Another session that's really exciting that we have this year is on photonic network optimization. So a lot of these networks now are going to big pipes with a lot of capacity, and people are trying to drive cost out and trying to get the best bang for the buck out of these photonic networks. One of the highly rated papers is on spectrum and cost and energy efficiency with fixed grid versus flexible grid. So for example, those are 2 options that carriers are looking at today for their networks. And I think I've seen a number of talks before that looked at cost or spectrum efficiency, but this is the first paper I've seen that brings in energy efficiency as well, which is something that's very critical, and looks at that to see which of the 2 options work better. There's another talk that was very exciting in a submitted paper on directionless and colorless networks and how to use that to reduce blocking in a network. And they have a lot of good results from 2 real networks out there, 2 European networks that they use to show how colorless directionless is able to save ports and save money. And there's also an invited talk in that section from Sherry McCon from AT&T, who's talking about how to best design an optical backbone that meets the needs of the IP community. So she's from AT&T's IP side, but she's going to be looking at how optical network can meet her needs. The third session I wanted to talk about that's really interesting is one that looks at inter-data center connectivity. So what's the best way to connect these large data centers together? We have folks on our committee from Facebook and Google and the carriers that are all managing these large data centers. And so there was a lot of, we have a tutorial in that session, a really interesting tutorial by Srini from Deutsche Telekom talking about OpenFlow. OpenFlow today is mostly being used in campus environments, but Srini's going to talk about how some of those concepts can be extended to carrier environments and how they're going to impact everything that we do in the future. So I think it's a really exciting tutorial. And we also have a talk in there about energy efficiency, and it's a submitted talk looking at a new metric that can be used for energy efficiency to compare and contrast different node architectures. And so that's another paper that I think is going to be of a lot of interest to a lot of the folks that are trying to manage data networks. So those are 3 of our interesting sessions for this year.